In this video, we are going to look at what is an air mass and how do we qualify or describe an air mass. We're going to start, of course, with our objectives. I can identify common air mass types and their origins on a U.S. map and indicate the characteristics of each. So at the end of this video, you should be able to do both of those things. So what is an air mass? Basically, an air mass is just a really, really big bubble of air. When we say really big, we're talking immense. It covers many, many states usually. It's going to have the same temperature and moisture contents everywhere in that air mass. They're the same throughout. They form over a specific area of Earth, and they take on the qualities of that region, and we name them for what type of surface they formed over. So the first quality that we look at in an air mass is moisture content. Air masses are either marine or maritime, either one, represented by a little m, which means they're relatively moist and they formed over water. Or they're continental, meaning they're dry. They don't have a lot of moisture content, meaning they formed over land. The second quality we look at is temperature. They are either going to be pretty much cool or warm. We describe them as polar if they're relatively cool and they're from northern areas, or they're tropical if they're warmer and they form in a southern area. So that gives us four possible combinations. If it's CP, continental polar, that means it's dry because it formed over land and it's relatively cool. Continental tropical, again, formed over land, so it's going to be dry but warm. Marine or maritime polar, moist and cool. Marine or maritime tropical, relatively moist and warm. In the United States, the continental polar and maritime tropical are the most dominant air masses in North America. We're going to see most of those because as we're going to see on the map in a minute, we'll get those continental polars from over Canada and the maritime tropical up from areas like the Gulf of Mexico and the southern Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. Those two types of air masses are responsible for much of our weather. Sometimes there's one exception, and that will be what's called a continental Arctic. And this is, again, forms over land way north in the northern parts of Canada, but it's Arctic, which means it's much colder than the polar. So it brings very bitterly cold temperatures and hardly any moisture. So here's our map, and as you can see, we've got our continental polar, which forms in these northern areas over land, so it's cold and dry. We have the maritime polar, which is still in the north, but over the ocean, so it's got more moisture in it. Down here, we've got our continental tropic, which is hot and dry, and then the maritime tropic, which is warm and moist. And like I said, from the Gulf of Mexico and these southern parts of the Atlantic and Pacific Ocean. Make sure this would be a really good map you might want to sketch out in your notebook to refer back to. Look and seeing those arrows where they kind of come from and are moving towards, and make sure you review these notes and watch the video again if necessary. In the next video, we're going to take a look at what happens when two different air masses meet up. How do they interact?